bullish or bearish. Whether you're a rookie trader or a rock star, we believe there's room for everyone. Every Filipino can learn how to trade. We're just your average Joe. But together, let's take advantage of the greatest equalizer of wealth ever, the stock market, where millions can be made and lost in a click of a finger. The journey to trading mastery is a lifetime, and we're here to stay. We are ZFT, and this is where the hot money is.
Yes, marami tayong mga background music na ginagamit. May lo-fi tayo, meron din tayong mga bagsakan. Meron din tayong mga OPM. Depende yan sa sir. Depende sa mood na gusto natin i-set. Okay, so recording na tayo, no? So, good evening to everyone. Welcome to our Ask ZFT podcast for tonight. So, medyo juicy yung topic natin ngayon, no? As always naman. We'll be talking about overthinking, combating overthinking, and how to execute your plan as is. So, before we start, meron lang akong gustong introduce na platform for Ask ZFT. So, shout out kay Sir Julius, okay? Sir Julius Milendra for creating this platform wherein people can simply ask questions na pwede kong sagutin dito sa weekly podcast natin. So, if hindi nyo alam kung paano mag-navigate dun sa platform na yun, just click the link. Ayan, yung sinend ni Sir Julius Cortez. Okay, click the link and you will be directed to this page right here. So, makikita nyo dito, nandito yung mga questions na pwede kong i-consider. No? So, you can post a question here and if nagustuhan ko yung question, I will answer it through the Ask ZFT podcast. So, ayan. Actually, before naman, ganito naman talaga yung sistema for this, for this segment inside TR. It's just that medyo naging inactive yung yung channel natin for this. So, I think siguro kasi, medyo overwhelming na yung mga Discord channels natin sa TR. So, we created a separate platform kung saan pwede kayo magtanong. So, currently, ayan, may mga magagandang questions na tayo dito. Yung pinaka-common asker natin, ito, si Sir Alan Lim. So, meron siyang 1, 2, 3, 4. Ayan. May 4 questions or ideas siya dito na gusto niyang ma-discuss sa segment na to. Okay, but for tonight, I went with this question. So, hindi ko alam na si Sir Julius Cortez pala. Siya din yung Julius na nag-message sa akin sa Discord regarding this platform. So, nagustuhan ko yung question niya. So, bago tayo magsimula, let's read his question. And then, discuss natin yung question. Okay? So, ang topic na gusto niya is, are you overthinking your trades? So, ito yung background. During daw sa defense namin, okay, so sa TIP kasi we have a trade defense at the end of the program. Napa-reflect daw siya, okay, in terms of his trade analysis. So, he has a series of questions here. So, first question is, how would I know if I am overthinking a trade? Okay, so I understand in one of your podcasts that at the end of the day, the market is all about probabilities and you just have to accept the outcome of it. But how would I know if I have every variable? So ito, highlight natin. So paano niyo daw malalaman na every variable na kailangan niyang i-consider has been considered? Okay, so that's the first. Second question niya, so follow up is, what's the difference between a low quality analysis and a high quality analysis? So since it's impossible to consider all the variables in the market, how would I know if the information I have at hand is enough? Okay, so napakaganda ng question na to. Di-discuss natin yan. So what are the things I should consider aside from the technical setup? So there's the market sentiment, risk management, and my psych. Are there anything else? And ayan, last question niya is, would it be right for you to start at zero and do a sample charting session on how you would approach a trade? So let's say you just came back from a long vacation and you want to trade. Ano daw yung train of thought behind that? Okay, and ayan, may question pa dito, how many hours should I dedicate for charting? Okay, so that's all from me. I think I have a solid system with ZFT, but there are gaps somewhere, and I'm hoping with this process from a mentor, I get to see where those gaps might be. So more power, coach. Okay, so gusto niyo ba yung question na to, guys? Ano naman, type naman na if you like this question. Ganda ng question ni ano, no? Ganda ng topic ni suggested topic ni Sir Julius. Okay, napakamalaman. So yun yung pag-uusapan natin tonight. That's why I entitled this session as Combating Overthinking. How to execute your plan as is. Okay. So wala akong ano dito, guys, no. Wala akong prepare na presentation or whatsoever. So this is going to be more of a kung ano yung parang maisip ko na answer, I'll just state it and hopefully from there pwede tayong mag-expound. But I did prepare an outline for this. So meron akong simple outline lang. And hopefully through this outline, ma-discuss ko lahat. Okay? So ayan. So when we talk about overthinking and trading, for me there are three types kasi, no. So what are these three types? The first type of overthinking is yung overthinking na nangyayari before you even trade. So yun yung tinatawag nating pre-trade overthinking. Okay? So three types. Parang ano, no, parang classroom setup lang. Alam niyo ba, guys, dati pag nagtuturo ako, sometimes sobrang tinatamad ako mag-prepare for the lesson. So what I do is I just attend the class and then pinapakiramdaman ko kung ano kaya magandang i-discuss ngayon na topic. So dati medyo yun yung parang ano sa akin, like kung may negative comment man yung mga colleagues ko sa academe, parang they always say na I go outside the curriculum. Parang kunwari advanced accounting, ito lang dapat i-discuss, but during the class sessions may mga dinidiscuss ako na wala sa syllabus. But I think that's for me, that's actually a good thing kasi ayaw kasing nalilimit ako when it comes to what I want to discuss. So anyway, going back. So there are three types of overthinking in terms of trading. So number one is yung pre-trade thinking. Pre-trade overthinking. So this is actually happening during your planning phase. Okay? When you are planning for your trade, sometimes it's quite difficult to really identify kung ano ba talaga yung gusto mong i-trade. Right? Especially if wala ka pa talagang firm process. So this is a common problem for beginner traders. So for example, in the ZFT programs like TI, TIP, nagdi-discuss kami ng mga setups, right? And sa mga setups na yan, may mga parameters and conditions na dapat tingnan mo sa chart para ma-screen mo or para malaman mo na, okay, so this setup is a bound setup, therefore I need to trade it. So once you have that, once na-screen mo yung mga setups na yan, ipaplano mo sila. But I know many of you, when you begin to plan the trade, hindi mo alam talaga exactly saan ka bibili. Okay? Hindi mo alam exactly how to manage the trade, kung ano ba dapat yung bias, and ano ba dapat yung parang expectation mo doon sa trade na yon, right? So because hindi mo alam, and because you have no clear idea of how to approach the trade, that's where overthinking comes in. So you begin to consider so many things doon sa trade na yon to the point na yung mga variables na kino-consider mo are no longer essential. So kung mapapansin niyo, 'di ba, doon sa question ni Sir Julius kanina, ilang beses niyang ni-raise up 'yon. Okay, yung regarding the question of how do I know if I have every variable doon sa trade idea ko, kung baga na-consider ko lahat. Okay, so how to address that, later we'll answer. So yun muna yung ano natin, starting point. So pre-trade overthinking during the planning phase. So this is more for me, this is more of a lapse in analysis. Kasi 'di ba, what we want to happen is before the trade or before the execution, inanalyze mo na yung setup na yan, yung chart na yan. Para during the trade, hindi ka na mag-analyze. Okay? So dahil meron kang lapse in analysis, and because of this lapse, mag-snowball na siya. So, kulang ka sa analysis, wala kang firm process behind, and what will happen is, since wala kang firm process, you would begin to consider everything. Begin to consider everything or anything you see that you think is relevant doon sa trade na yun. That's the first. So after the pre-trade overthinking, punta naman tayo sa tinatawag nating overthinking during the trade. Okay? So this is more of the execution and monitoring phase. So trinade mo na, nakabili ka na. Nandun na siya sa portfolio mo. But while you are monitoring it and maybe even during the execution, you begin to, again, think about so many things dun sa trade na yon. Kasi again, before, okay, sa planning pa lang, may lapse ka na. So maki-carry forward yun dun sa execution and monitoring. Okay, so what will happen here is you'll begin to micromanage too much. Okay? Micromanaging is when you're doing so many things doon sa trade na yun, even if wala kang kailangang gawin. Okay? There's what we call good micromanagement. So there are certain plays na talagang kailangan mong i-micromanage. So for example, ceiling plays and bounce plays. So especially on the day of the bounce or on the day of the ceiling play, dapat tutok ka dyan. Okay? Dapat alam mo kung ano yung mga key levels na babantayan. But after the trade or after the setup materializes, there's a point or there's a phase in your trading execution na dapat wala ka talagang kailangan gawin. Okay? And that's something that many traders do not know exactly. Kailan ba na dapat wala akong kailangan gawin? Okay? So dahil hindi nila yun alam, they micromanage too much. Okay? So yan ha, kung na-execute mo siya. But what if during the execution, ayan, so nakita mo na yung reason pala kung bakit, let's say, nag-breakout yung stock na yon is dahil may news or may catalyst. And then you began to read the catalyst, tapos nakita mo yung catalyst na yon, it's something na gusto mong i-consider. Okay? So, an example of this phenomenon is gusto mong mag-trade ng breakout. Okay? Gusto mong i-trade siya as a breakout trade. Pero nung nakita mo na may catalyst, yung original plan mo na iti-take mo lang is, let's say, just a 1% risk on that trade, you decided to go 2% or you decided to go all in. Bakit? Kasi may nakita kang catalyst. Okay? Nangyari na ba yan sa inyo, guys? Na parang you're just planning for a simple trade, breakout trade lang, and then dahil nakita mo, uy, may biglang magandang catalyst. So, in-increase mo yung risk mo. Even if that's something na hindi talaga part ng process mo. Okay? That's actually a case of overthinking. Okay? Para sa akin. Kasi, you went beyond your plan. Okay? Or you went beyond what's necessary for that trade. Ayan, lagay natin dito. Okay, so one of the things that can happen during this part right here is looking at stuff outside your system. Okay, so like news, disclosures, catalysts, even rumors, or kunwari may kaibigan ka inside TR na dinulungan ka na may insider information daw siya na yung stock na to lilipad, magre-release ng catalyst. Okay? Another one, okay, during trade. So, under this category, meron tayong tinatawag na hope that arose, okay, from overthinking. So, ilagay na lang natin siya as hope or what ifs. So, this is another type of overthinking wherein tinamaan na yung cut loss mo. And you know for a fact na according to your plan, if this level is breached, you would sell or cut your loss. Pero at the back of your mind, may nagbubulong sa'yo na parang, wag mo muna ibenta yan. Kasi pwede pa yung umakyat. Ang ganda ng trend, oh. So now, di ba, yung original trade idea mo na magka-cut ka doon is being bypassed or naaano siya, parang nasa-short circuit siya ng stuff na hindi mo naman kinonsider during your plan. So let's say you're a momentum trader. Okay? You bought at the breakout. Hindi nag-hold yung breakout level. Parang yung all HC, di ba? Noong Friday. So, hindi nag-hold yung all-time high. Pero pag tinitingnan mo yung chart, kita mo na, trend pa rin naman to. Lakas pa rin naman, parabolic pa rin naman. So, from the original objective of just doing a momentum trade, bigla kang nag-shift. Okay? Bigla kang nag-shift and sabi mo sa sarili mo, sige, ETF ko na lang or swing ko na lang. Okay? Now, you began to hope na pwede pa tong umakyat ulit. Okay? Just because you don't want to take that loss. Okay? That's a case of overthinking. Yan, isama natin yan. Another thing, during the trade, there will be instances na you will, because of your failure to recognize different scenarios dun sa trade na yun, yung masyado kang focus on just one scenario, and if hindi nangyari yung scenario na yun, then you'll end up, again, messing up the trade. So, failure to consider different scenarios. Okay? So, yan yung mga nangyayaring types of overthinking under the category of during trade. And lastly, okay, yung third type of overthinking is post-trade overthinking. Okay, ito yung nangyayari during journalizing your trade and documenting it. So yan, sa mga Minerva users, 'di ba sa Minerva, when you input your trades, there are different metrics na pwede mong tingnan doon, and you can even input your notes, the emotions that you felt, your error, your reason for buying, etc., etc. So while you're doing that, there will be instances na masyado mong parang i-overanalyze yung trade na yun to the point na instead na makatulong sa'yo yung trade entry na yun, it's becoming more of a, parang nagba-backslide ka pa. Okay? A good example of this is, you have a trade tapos napaka-cut loss ka. And medyo malaki yung talo. Okay? So now, dahil malaki yung talo, you begin to think that something is wrong with what you did. Okay? So, binalikan mo yung trade and then nakita mo, dapat pala, instead na bumili ako dito pala dapat ako bumili. Okay? Or instead pala na I took a 2% VAR position in this trade, dapat pala 1% lang. Okay? So, you begin to think of these things thinking na yun talaga yung problem. Or merong problem doon sa trade or execution na ginawa mo. But in actuality, sinunod mo lang talaga yung plano mo. Okay? So it's like kumbaga ito yung opposite ng parang trader na pag bumibili at nag-execute lang siya ng trades niya. Akala niya wala siyang mali. So parang inisip niya lang, okay, so this is how trading works. Okay lang, wala naman akong mali. Mag-all in ako, okay lang yan. Diba? May kabaliktaran yun. And that is you're thinking na every time may talo ka, you think na may mali. When in reality, wala. Okay? Most of these instances is because you're doing what we call hindsight analysis. Okay? Nagre-reflect ka doon sa trade na ginawa mo and you're applying too much insight doon sa trade na, dapat pala sa 10 peso ako bumili, hindi sa 12 peso. Kasi yun pala yung perfect level. If you try to think about it objectively, yung perfect level na yun became perfect kasi nag-breakout siya or kasi may nangyari na after that candle, di ba? But when you are on that candle at hindi mo pa talaga alam fully ano yung mangyayari after that, hindi mo siya masasabi na perfect entry kasi hindi siya gumalaw, hindi pa siya gumagalaw. Okay? So try to avoid yung tinatawag nating insight analysis. And there are ways to do this. Okay? So ayan. And another thing under number 3 is yung tinatawag nating actually ang label ko lang dito is you simply followed your plan but thought something is wrong. Okay. Sa sa Discord and even sa Facebook account ko, every day may nagme-message sa akin, nagpapa-consult ng trade nila. Okay, nagse-send ng chart, tapos pinapakita na yung entry nila. And yung question nila is always the same. Pwede ba daw ako magbigay ng input kung ano yung kailangan nilang improve doon sa trade nila? And masabi ko, siguro mga out of 10 people who are asking, 8 out of 10 sa kanila, yung sinasubmit nilang trade idea na pinapakonsult nila, nothing is wrong with the trade idea. I mean, yes, there are points of improvement, pero in terms of the overall execution, saan sila bumili, yung allocation nila at saan sila nag-cut, everything is fine. 'di ba? So, sinasabi ko lang sa kanila na, are you really um, thinking about this objectively? Kasi baka the reason lang bakit iniisip mo na may mali sa trade na 'yan is kasi natalo ka. For sure, if panalo ka diyan or big win 'yan, hindi mo ipapa-consult sa akin 'yan, right? Never ko pa na-encounter yung scenario na may nagpa-consult sa akin and it's a winning trade, like it's a big win. Tapos tinatanong niya ano yung problem doon sa trade na 'yon. So, you get the idea behind. So, make sure na you're not equating a loss with an error. Okay? Losses and errors are not the same thing. Kasi it's possible na panalo yung trade mo pero puno ng errors yan. Okay? So maybe it's important as well, maisingit ko lang dito sa number 3, to really think about trading as really a game of probabilities. Alam ko, lagi ko tong sinasabi no, sa mga sessions ko. But it's really about that. The moment you accept fully na it's all about probabilities, you won't think too much about every single trade kasi minsan yan yung ginagawa mo, 'di ba? Like every trade parang masyado mong iniisip like it's a life and death situation na parang kung mali ako sa trade na to, sobrang bobo ko na trader. Or if nag-DYM ako just because of this trade, sobrang galing ko na trader. And I think that's a very dangerous mindset to be in. Kasi if you're talking about consistency, if you're talking about long-term consistency, it's never about that single trade. It's always about a group of trades or a sample size. Like a year. If you are profitable for 4 years already, every year up yung portfolio mo, kahit sabihin natin 40-50% lang, that's consistency. Okay, so actually that's the goal. Di mo yan pwedeng skip na parang from a break even or from a losing trader, diretso ka into someone who is doubling their portfolio every month. There's no such thing for me, walang ganon. Kung meron man, it's either they're taking too big of a risk, kaya nagagawa nila yon, but eventually, in a month or two, lahat ng gains nila isasauli lang din nila. And at the end of the year, yung, let's say, first quarter, nag-DYM sila. And then from April to December, binalik lang nila lahat ng pera nila. And by the end of December, i-journal nila yung trades nila, makita nila, ay, di pala ako nag-gain kahit piso. Diba? So, siguro what I'm trying to say is do not try to really put too much emphasis on every trade. It helps to journalize and reflect kung ano yung dapat na improve mo doon sa trade. But always remember, kung may point of improvement man dyan, it should be confined within your system. Okay? And it should not have any hindsight bias to it. Okay? So, clear ba? So, nagustuhan nyo ba guys yung ano natin? Parang on the spot na. Hindi naman siya super impromptu. Actually, I thought about these things pero ngayon ko lang siya parang nilayout na. So, I hope it's making sense. Especially sa nag-ask yan kay Sir Julius. Alright, so meron tayong 3 types pala of overthinking. How do we address these different types of overthinking? So, before we go to that, it's also important to know ano yung root cause behind all of this. Okay, so identify natin yung root causes ng problem. So parang ganito yung ginawa natin. No? This is more of para siyang related literature or like context or background of the concept of overthinking. And now we're going to the problem identification. Yan, napaka-scientific approach. So root causes. For me, the number one root cause of overthinking is really lack of planning. Okay? And part of this is nasabi ko na kanina, so lack of planning because you don't have a clear process. Okay, so sa mga TIP students dyan, you know what I'm talking about. Right? So sa module 2 natin, diniscuss natin yan na if you want to trade mechanically or like trade objectively, you need to have a clear process. So, discuss natin ito ng pahapyaw. Ano ba yung process? What does it look like? A process is really a step-by-step, if and then framework that you are following as a trader. People think, especially people inside PR, Now, once you know the ZFT system, that's the process. Okay? Magkaiba po guys ang system sa process. Para sa akin these two are very different. So, lahat tayo, we are using the ZFT system. Okay. Ito, sige. I want to ask some people here. If you were to describe the ZFT system, like in 1 line or 2 lines, how would you describe it? Kunwari may nagtanong sa'yo na bata or a trader outside the ZFT universe. Ano ba yung ZFT system? How does it work? Anong meron dyan? Paano mo siya i-describe? Sige, Sir Ish, nandito ka ba?
Hello, Sir Just. Good evening.
Ayan, how would you describe the ZFT system?
I think, sir, yun nga, from the word itself, holistic. Kasi
Okay, holistic.
aside dun sa indicators na ginagamit natin on the technical side,
Mhm.
maraming approaches na maraming nuances and approaches na very personalized depende sa profile ng trader.
Okay. Can you give me, Sir Ish, ano ba yung mga indicators na ginagamit sa ZFT system?
Honestly, sir, dalawa na lang. Darvas and MAs.
Darvas and MAs.
Kasi as per my profile, I'm leaning on the trend side of things versus on the momentum.
Pero based sa ano natin, no, sa original system, it's Darvas, MAs, RSI, and FIB.
FIBs, yes.
Okay. Bakit mo nasabi na holistic?
First of all, kasi dun pa lang sa 4 indicators natin, almost everything is covered na eh. For example, MAs covers the trend, Darvas covers price action, support and resistance, Fibonacci and for the levels, especially if you're a support buyer, RSI for the momentum. Now, as we go along sa trading journey kasi natin, mag-iiba-iba tayo eh. Because nandito na lalabas yung 10,000 hours. 4 hours of discovery na rin. And along the way, magkakaroon tayo ng mga personal truths natin and inclinations toward trading itself. So, kaya ako siya nasabi. And lastly, kaya ako siya nasabi holistic. Parang dadaan ka dun sa process ng maglalagay ka ng information, dadigest mo siya, then i-eliminate mo yun. Alamin mo yung kung ano yung mag-work sa'yo and i-eliminate mo kung ano yung hindi nag-work para sa'yo. Then from there, you can optimize or add your own along the way.
So, maganda yung sinabi ni, thank you Sir Isha for sharing. So, maganda yung sinabi niya sa last part, yung exploring it and add along the way. Okay, so, i-discuss natin yan tonight. So, ayun no, if you're being asked what the ZFT system is all about, it's really easy to describe it, especially if ginagamit mo na siya for quite some time. Ako personally, I describe it as a swing momentum system. Okay? I'm not saying na it's not applicable for trend following kasi it's very much applicable and even for position trading, right? But yung core principle ng ZFT system, it's really made for swing and momentum traders. So breakout trading, that's one, and buying on supports or confirmation of supports. And then if someone outside ZFT will ask me, ano ba yung components ng ZFT system? I can easily say it. And dapat kayo din, no? If you're asked, ano yung meron sa ZFT system? Dapat masagot mo siya na, okay, ZFT system, gumagamit kami ng Darvas for entries, gumagamit kami ng MAs for trend identification, we use RSI for momentum, and we use FIB to anticipate support levels and retracement, kung bullish pa or bearish. And we combine this four to create what we call setups. Okay, di ba? Ganun lang yon. In one line. Lahat ng setups na dinidiscuss sa ZFT system, it's just a combination of these four different tools. So Darvas is more of the price action, MAs, RSI, and FIB. Yan yung mga indicators. And maganda yung sinabi din ni Sir Ish na it's holistic kasi if you know how to use these tools effectively, kahit anong profile na gusto mong i-master, pwede mo siyang gamitin. Okay? But here's a question. Is knowing the ZFT system enough? Kumbaga kung ano yung dinidiscuss sa TI, diba TI, blueprint, nandiyan yung mga components ng ZFT system. Let's say you're an expert in the ZFT system in terms of how to use the indicators and how to use Darvas. But is it enough for you to become profitable? Sino yung nagsasabing yes. So just type yes or no. Is it enough? Uy, medyo napaisip yung yung iba. So, yung question ko, the ZFT system by itself, is it enough? Okay, so sabi ni Sir Ish, it's a yes for him. Some people are saying no. So parang ngayon, mas maraming nagsasabing no. I want to know why you say no. Okay, let's go with Doc Darren. Bakit no, sir?
Hi, good evening, Sir Cosmos. I think kasi knowing the system and being able to consistently execute it perfect. Well, di man kailang perfectly, no, but at a level na magiging consistently profitable ka are two completely different things kasi ayun nga, as we've discussed no before sa TI, yung natin, it's not just yung technicals eh. Being a winning trader is not just about being able to master the technical indicators. No, we also have to have yung risk management and yung trading psychology natin. So I think naman while the ZFT system does cover all those three things, parang hindi enough kasi na alam mo lang siya. Dapat consistent ka within yourself. No, you have a certain way of doing things na repeatable and consistent. Saka ka magiging consistently profitable.
Okay, that's a very good answer. Anyone who would like to share sa mga nagsabing no? Bakit? Ito, si Sir Teo. Nandito ba si Sir Teo? Yung global trader natin. Sabi din niya, no eh. Wala kang mic. Sige. So, other than Sir Darren, meron pa bang gustong mag-share? Mindset. Actually, sir, no, sa ZFT system, like sa TI, nagdi-discuss tayo ng mindset. Like sa risk management module ko, yan, di pala natin naisama dito. So, meron din tong risk management component and trade psychology. Okay? So, kasama yan sa TI natin. So, siguro pag sinasabing mindset, ayan, yung sabi ni Sir Teo, mindset that is unique doon sa trader na yun. So, ayan, going back dito sa root cause na to. You are failing to plan objectively kasi you don't have a clear process. And the misconception behind is people think na once they have the ZFT system, that's already the process. Okay? Sino yung guilty sa ganun? Na parang you enrolled in TI to know the ZFT system kasi you think na once alam mo yung ZFT system na yan na yun. Maga, it's like a plug and play mindset. Pag alam ko na yung ZFT system, ipa-plug ko na lang siya sa sarili ko or sa trading approach ko. And that's it. Magiging consistently profitable na ako. But that's not the case. Okay? Dito papasok yung difference. Kasi guys, yung ZFT system, it's actually the bedrock. Okay? It's like the foundation of your trading approach. Of course, yung goal ng every trading system out there is to give you what we call positive expectancy. So, sa mga hindi alam kung ano yung expectancy na yan, it's just a mathematical edge. Okay? So, mathematical edge wherein your wins are bigger than your losses. Diba? That's actually the goal of trading. Pwede kang magkaroon ng sobrang daming loss, but so long as your wins are compensating for all your losses at mas malaki yung winning trades mo, every year you'll come out positive or profitable. Right? So, yun yung parang purpose ng ZFT system. Like, if you trade these setups consistently, if you use these indicators properly, and you plan your trades according to how you read the charts, eventually, after 100, 200 trades, you will become consistently profitable or you will come out positive. But the thing with that is, in order for you to execute the ZFT system, meron kang process. And this process, sad to say, is something na hindi pwedeng ituro or spoon feed sa'yo. Tipong, okay ganito pag nag-breakout, dapat bili ka 2% from the breakout point. Dapat ang bilhin mong shares is ganito karami, dapat yung risk mo is ganyan. It doesn't work that way kasi every person, every trader is unique in terms of their strengths and weaknesses. And what you need to do is really create your own process that will help you maximize or leverage doon sa system na binigay sa'yo. Okay? So we'll expound on that further sa last part, which is yung solutions natin or recommendations. So for now, just know na one of the root causes is this. Okay, so process is unique. We are all using the ZFT system, but each of us should have a unique process on how to execute the system. Okay, so gets ba yun? Number 2. Okay, so lack of planning. Number 2, it's simply ego. Okay, so this is one of the root causes why this happens, itong nasa taas. So ego, or actually, pag sinabi nating ego, this is really about the desire to win all the time. Okay? Chances are, sa lahat ng times na nag-overthink ka, or nag-overanalyze, or nagkaroon ka ng analysis paralysis, at the back of your head, yung expectation mo sa trade na yun is dapat panalo. Do you agree with that? Just try to recall. Ba? Mapapansin mo na most of those times na, di ba, parang ang dami-dami mong iniisip, ang dami-dami mong gustong i-consider. Lahat ng variables, like, sabi sa'yo, technicals lang muna, wag ka munang mag-fundamentals. Kasi yung fundamentals, if you don't know how to use it, magiging noise lang siya. Pero sige, gusto mong mag-fundamentals. You want to consider all the variables because you think na if na-consider mo yan lahat, that will lead you to a state na panalo ka lagi. And that's impossible. Okay? So if you're guilty of this and you find yourself overthinking a lot, then alam mo na. Ito yung dahilan. Or siguro you're the type of trader now na siguro nag-TIP ka or you're the type of trader na grabe yung research mo in terms of how to really enhance your process further. So hindi ka na nagkulang sa process. Kompleto ka ng mga framework, if and thens, mga setups at playbook mo nandiyan na lahat. But still, you find yourself in a losing position. Maybe it's because of this. Okay? Kasi alam nyo guys, even if your process is really effective, but if the expectation, if the desire is not aligned to the reality of trading, which is you will lose, or let's say you have a very flawless process, but yung mindset mo is gusto mo yung process na to, it will give you a consistent flow of money every day. Parang ganun, like parang alam mo yun, parang iniisip mo na yung market, it's obliged to give you money because you have a process. But you become entitled. Giging entitled ka na. Nag-aral ako, nag-TIP ako. I invested almost 100,000 for just learning about the ZFT system. And I'm doing 8 hours of charting a day. Dapat, market, bigyan mo ako ng pera kasi ito yung trabaho. Guys, walang pakialam yung market sa kung anong pinagagawa mo. Or kung gaano kalaki na yung ginastos mo sa pag-learn ng trading systems. Or kahit gaano kalaki yung port mo, no? Wala siyang pakialam. Okay? So at the end of the day, you will lose. And you just need to accept that. Sometimes, being a losing trader can take years. Sabi nila, it takes on average 3 years, 3 to 5 years, depende sa learning curve mo to be consistently profitable. And I fully agree with that. Okay, so be aware of this. Okay, kasi baka yan yung root. Number 3, ito, past failures. Yan. So sa mga kakarating lang, we're talking about the root causes of overthinking. What do your past failures have to do with your overthinking? Sige, isipin nyo mabuti. If for the past year, okay? So, sa year muna tayo. So, past year, 2020, wala ka pang alam sa ZFT system. And you lost like 40% of your account. And now, you have the ZFT system. Pero for some reason, hindi mo siya ma-execute ng tama. You keep on overthinking, keep on hesitating in your trades, and you keep on selling too early kasi iniisip mo na baka babagsak na siya. Be aware na maybe it's because you think na kung ano yung mga losses na na-incur mo before, mangyayari sa'yo ulit. Because of that state of mind, you want to protect yourself from those losses. Okay? So, parang kung in a winning position ka na, let's say you are trading a highly volatile stock. Tapos yung TP mo talaga sa kanya is you want to get a 4R reward. So, it means 4 times your risk. So let's say you're risking 10,000 pesos for that trade. You're looking at a 40,000 peso gain. And the trade is working to your advantage. Everything is going well. Tapos biglang nagkaroon lang ng slight retracement. Pero itong retracement na to, it's something na na-factor in mo na sa plan mo. And it's something that is expected from that trade. Pero dahil you have this mindset of being trapped in your past failures, iniisip ko ngayon na, 20,000 gain na ako, tapos bigla ngayon 10,000 na lang. Dapat i-book ko na yung gains na to. Kasi baka maulit yung mga nangyari sa akin before. But what you're not aware of is, yung nangyari sa'yo before is different now. Kasi dati, wala ka pang system. Ngayon, meron ka ng sinusunod na system at process. So what makes you think na these two are the same? Yes, it can be a lose. It can be a loss. Okay? Magiging talo yung trade. Possible yun. But the reasons bakit ka natalo is no longer the same. Yung first, natalo ka or you're consistently losing because you don't have any system or process. Ngayon, natalo ka because you simply executed your plan. And what happens is, dahil nga na-tie up ka doon sa past failure or mistakes mo, you sold the trade. Even if wala pang sell signal. And after you sold, in 3 days or 4 days, inabot yung original na target price mo. So, yung dapat sana na 40,000 gain mo, naging 10,000 na lang kasi you were too trapped with what happened in the past. So, guilty ba kayo of that? Is that something na napapansin nyo sa sarili nyo every time you trade? So, that's one of the root causes as well. So, how to address that? We will answer that later. Okay. And number 4, ito ipag-iisa ko na lang. So, past failure. So, number 4 is, kung meron tayong lack of planning, which is, medyo okay lang na, if you think about it, no, if you don't have a process, pero you have a system in place, and lahat tayo dito, we're using the ZFT system, that's actually the first step to consistency. So, medyo okay na yan. Yung pinaka nakakatakot is, lack of knowledge talaga. Okay? And, so, kung merong lack of knowledge, like wala ka talagang alam na system, that's why you keep on overthinking kasi hindi mo alam kung ano yung i-consider mo. Pwede rin, too much knowledge. Okay? So, either way, atong dalawa, they can be a cause to your overthinking. So, syempre yung lack of knowledge, given na yan. But what about too much knowledge? So, na-discuss ko kanina, right? If you know too many things, and you want to consider everything that you know in your trades, chances are it will do more harm than good. And this is a common newbie mistake. Kasi, kunwari sa TR, every week may charting. Sobrang daming webinars recorded, mga nasa drive, right, na pwede mong panoorin. And sometimes people become impatient na tipong gusto nila, they know everything in one go. Isang bagsakan lang lahat. Like, ibigay mo sa akin lahat ng pwede kong malaman about trading, about the ZFT system. If that would be your approach, it's not going to help. I mean, you might think na it's going to help you kasi ang dami mo nang alam. But sometimes it's just about applying the basics first before you branch out. Okay? So, ito din yung lagi kong reminder sa mga tao, nagpapakonsult sila sa akin. Sometimes, I have these people na bibigay sa akin ng trade idea. And nasa process pa sila of like just mastering the basics, knowing their profile, and then biglang may nakikita akong fundamentals, ganun. I'm not discouraging them to apply fundamentals sa trading nila, but if you can't even apply basic technicals, like basic supports and resistances, how to buy breakouts, how to identify the right support, what makes you think na adding a layer of fundamentals in your trading system will actually help? Ay, nag-gets nyo ba? So, take it one step at a time para hindi siya maging cause ng overthinking. Okay? So, ayan. So, these are the 3 types of overthinking. Then, we identified now the root causes. Okay? Last but not the least, of course, is what are the solutions? Okay? How do we address these problems or causes? Okay, actually, kanina medyo na-discuss ko na siya. No? Let's go with the obvious solutions. Okay, number 1, have a systematic trading process. Yan. Siyempre, we need to define what systematic is. Okay, systematic is if and then. Okay? So, if and then, meaning you have a way to analyze different scenarios, to analyze and react to different scenarios, analyze and react to different scenarios. If you're the type of trader na, let's say, nung Friday, may 3 positions ka na hawak, tapos biglang napakat ka, pero tinamaan na yung cut loss mo but you froze. Okay? Tipong hindi mo alam bakit di ka maka-execute. That's because you did not consider that scenario na pwedeng makat lahat ng positions mo on the same day. That's why you failed react. And yan yung isa sa dapat talaga na isama mo sa trading process mo. When you enter a breakout trade, what are the different scenarios na pwedeng mangyari? It can gap up, it can gap down, it can do nothing. So after ng breakout, hindi siya tumuloy, hindi din siya bumagsak, nandun lang siya. Nag-pause siya or nag-stall. Pwedeng tinapik yung cut loss mo in the first 30 minutes of the day, and then after tinapik yung cut loss, saka siya tumuloy. Diba? So, if you think about it, there are infinite iterations of different scenarios for every trade or for every position na meron ka. But it's your job to react on those scenarios. So, yung ginagawa namin, ako personally, yung ginagawa ko is, every time I have a position, I just identify ano yung level sa taas na dapat pag tinamaan yun, may gagawin ako. At ano yung level sa baba na pag tinamaan yun, may gagawin ako. Okay, so, di ba, if and then. So, it's all about identifying the right price. For example, I entered 1 peso breakout. Nakabili ako sa 1.05. So, I would plan na, since 1 peso yung breakout point, if tinamaan yung 0.98 at 10 a.m. onwards, so very specific. Okay? If tinamaan yung 0.98 at 10 a.m. onwards, I would sell everything. If tinamaan yung cut loss ko na 0.98 in the first 30 minutes of the day, I would do nothing. If tinamaan yung cut loss ko 11 o'clock onwards, I would sell half. These are just examples. Okay? But what I'm trying to say sa inyo is, when you think about your scenarios or when you think about your if and thens, it should be specific and it should be something na hindi na siya open to interpretation. Kasi yung iba, parang ganito yung nangyayari. Like, you have a level below na tinitingnan mo na pag tinamaan yun, you would do something. So, if tinamaan yung 0.98, but what if, okay, what if ganito? Tinamaan yung 0.98, pero walang volume. Okay, the sell down has no volume. Pag hindi mo na-consider yung scenario na yun, what will happen? Di ba mag-overthink ka? Mag-hesitate ka? Parang wait lang. Tinamaan yung cut loss. Pero walang volume. Magkakat ba ako? Or siguro hindi na, hindi na lang siguro. Di ba? Ganun yung mangyayari. Kasi again, hindi mo tinaga sa bato na pag ito yung nangyari, ito yung gagawin ko. Or kung ginawa mo man yun, it's incomplete. Hindi siya specific. So that's for me as a momentum trader. Now, for trend followers, swing traders, it's less specific but more robust, okay? If that makes sense. So if you're buying the support, ano yung mga dapat na scenarios na i-consider mo dyan? How long are you going to hold that position? Kasi possible na nag-hold lang yung support pero 1 week na hindi pa rin gumagalaw. So are you willing to wait that out? Or what if ganito? You're looking at 2 different levels of support. So merong support sa piso, meron ding support sa 0.95. So, alin dyan sa dalawang support levels na yan ang gusto mong mag-hold? Kasi possible na bumili ka sa piso na support, pero ngayon gumawa siya ng lower low somewhere around 0.95. So, is that the same level na valid pa rin yung trade idea mo? Or would you exit? Okay? So, those are the things, or actually examples lang yun, no? But ganun dapat yung approach mo when you think about your trading process. So, if and then, step by step. Okay? Of course, part of this solution is knowing ano lang yung titingnan mo during the trade, before the trade, and after the trade. Okay? You need to have what we call, kung sa research paper pa yan, yung tinatawag nating scope and limitation. Right? You need to have a scope of the things that you will consider. So, pag sinabi mo, okay, I'm a technical trader using the ZFT system, meaning ito yung mga indicators na ginagamit mo, na do not consider fundamentals. Okay? So, you have established that in yourself. Na yun yung trader na gusto mong i-master at this point. So, dahil na ano mo na yun, dahil na-establish mo na yun sa sarili mo, don't go outside of that scope. Or yung tinatawag nating trading universe mo. Huwag kang lumabas doon. Hanggang doon ka lang dapat. Anything outside of that trading universe is noise. It can be helpful for other traders. Like if other traders are using fundamentals kasi it's helping them, then okay, fine. Kasi yun yung nasa trading universe nila. Pero ikaw, wala yun. So, huwag mo rin consider yun. Or let's say, ito, classic example. No? Kasi when you are trading the PSE, di ba sa broker mo, makikita mo yung bid and ask. Right? Makikita mo yung kung ilang shares yung nakaharang sa ganitong level at ilan yung pad sa bid side, right? And sometimes I observe na maraming traders na ginagamit yung information na yun without really knowing how to use them. Okay, siguro kasi nakita lang nila, uy, si Sir Cosmos, si ganito ganyan, ginagamit to. So sige nga, gamitin ko din. Pero hindi talaga nila alam how to use it. So instead na mas nakakatulong sa kanila yung ginagawa nila, it only adds up to the noise. Okay? Anything, makinig kayo, anything na hindi mo talaga alam paano gamitin is noise. And that noise is usually what causes overthinking. Okay? So have a scope. Limit mo yung sarili mo hanggang ano lang yung mga variables na i-consider. Okay? Part of this trading process, and guys, is having a clear set of setups. Okay, so set of setups. Having a list of setups that you will trade. Sa TIP, we call this as the playbook. Okay? So lahat ng students namin sa immersion program, we require them to create a playbook. A playbook is actually a list of your plays or setups na ita-trade mo lang. Ako guys, I started with 10 setups. Pero yung 10 setups na yan, lahat yan parang fancy combinations of different patterns. So akala ko kasi before, yung mga magagaling na traders, they have a lot of setups in their arsenal na any market condition, ay nilang i-trade kasi ang dami nilang setups. But along the way, I realized na hindi pala ganun. Okay, so for example, si Sir Alpha, 2 setups lang siya. 1 setup for trend following, kasi yun yung profile niya, and 1 setup for bounce. Any other setup outside of these 2, hindi na niya tinitrade. Kaya hindi niyo makikitang magte-trade ng ceiling play si Sir Alpha or yung mga intraday, day trading, scalping stuff. Hindi niya yan ginagawa kasi it's outside his trading process. Sa akin naman at this point, I only have 4 setups. Okay? Yung tinitrade ko ng paulit-ulit lang. So, I understand na if you're starting, parang gusto mong subukan lahat, no? But just be careful kasi sometimes yung approach mo na gusto mong subukan lahat, yun pala yung nagiging cause ng overthinking. Kasi kulang ka sa focus and you're spread out too much. Looking at the charts, every pattern na nakikita mo gusto mong i-trade. Every triangle, every retracement. Whether swing trade yan or momentum or TF, blue chip, basura, lahat gusto mong i-trade kasi alam mo eh. Diba? So, Sometimes, yun pa yung naging reason bakit nagiging matagal yung learning curve ng student. Kaya yun lang, advice ko lang sa inyo. If you really want to quicken your learning curve, know kung ano lang yung mga dapat na bigyan mo ng focus. If you're a momentum trader, then screw all the other setups na hindi naman part ng momentum trading. Just focus on that profile. Like siguro 6 months. Then kung feeling mo hindi siya okay, then sige, subukan mo yung ibang setup. Ganun dapat yung approach. Okay, give it time. Okay, so that's the first solution. Okay, number 2. Ito, more of mind conditioning. So condition your mind to uncertainty and let go of things you can't control. Okay. One of the root causes. So, di ko siya na-mention dito, but actually, it's really more about number 2 din pala. So, one of the root causes of overthinking is you think you can control the outcome of your trade. So, by knowing everything, by considering all the variables, dapat alam mo yung insider info and technicals and fundamentals. You think na by knowing all of those things, you can control the outcome. But we all know that it's impossible. Okay? And one of the most humbling realities in the market is you will find yourself in a winning trade not because maganda yung system mo, but because of other people or other traders. What do I mean by that? Kunwari, trinade mo yung ever. Yung ever pumasok sa screening mo, nabili mo siya at a very optimal breakout point. Okay? Kasi naplano mo siya ng napakaganda. And you were able to sell near the top. Okay? And you begin to think na, grabe, galing ko talaga mag-trade. Isipin mo yon, nabili ko siya dito, nabenta ko siya dyan, and then I gained 100,000. And you begin to attach the outcome of that trade with your system. Okay, makinig kayo, this is very important and very juicy. Sana. You begin to attach the outcome kasi may system ka. Nakikita nyo? The reality is, the outcome has nothing to do with your system. Kaya lang siya naging ganon is because you happen to find yourself, o diba, probabilities pa rin. You just happen to find yourself in the right trade at the right time. Pero bakit naging win yung trade? It's because the market, the other traders out there, tinulak yung price, or yung market maker dyan, or yung whale, tinulak yung price ni Ever, nag-buy up, naging aggressive buyer siya. And because of that, inabot yung TP mo. Okay? So the outcome of the trade is not because of your system. It's something beyond your control. And because of that, you need to condition your mind na anything na iti-trade mo, the outcome is always uncertain. Kahit gaano pa kaganda yung setup na yan. Okay? Are you following, guys? Diyan pa ba kayo? So, it's really easier said than done. Diba? Kasi, I think it's very natural for us na parang tingin natin we can brute force ourselves into something. Tipong parang you can force something kasi magaling ka, but let go of that concept or let go of that state of mind when you are trading kasi it's really not the case. Okay? So number 1 is more about the technicality of your process. Number 2 is more about the conditioning of your mind. Okay? So condition your mind to uncertainty and let go of things that you can't control. Okay? And lastly, to address overthinking. So number 3. Ito, this is actually it's already a system that is in place inside PR. Pero kailangan ko siyang i-emphasize pa rin. Have an independent accountability partner or group. So parang ang ano nito, no, ang logic behind is if you are simply assessing yourself, like ikaw lang yung nag-assess sa sarili mo, nag-identify ng mali mo, sometimes you tend to be biased, right? or kung hindi man bias, you are clouded by your own perspective sa market. So parang, ako kasi dati, no, honestly, I'm not really the type of person na social or open book. Parang I'm very quiet and introverted kasi ako eh. So I don't really open up about my trading to people. And because of that, masabi ko na mas tumagal yung learning curve ko kasi ayun eh, parang gusto ko na, parang sinasabi ko sa sarili ko, hindi, magaling ako, kaya ko to, kahit ako lang. Pero eventually, parang hindi din pala. So, I ended up having an accountability group. I ended up having a mentor. And nung time na nangyari yun, and I've been very open sa trades ko, all my losses, doon ko lang talaga fully na kita kung ano talaga yung kulang sa trading ko, ano yung kailangan kong i-improve. Okay? And as someone who is also very guilty before of overthinking, overanalyzing, kasi I'm the type of person na sobrang detailed. Gusto ko data, okay? Give me data. Ganun yung approach ko sa trading. If you don't give me data or you don't give me the numbers, I cannot appreciate what you're talking about. So, ganun ako. But, na-realize ko na sa lahat ng yon, sa lahat ng times na inako ko yung trading journey ko, it led me to so many mistakes. And isa na doon yung overthinking. Kasi, hindi ko alam eh kung ano talaga yung dapat i-consider ko sa trading ko. Hindi ko alam kung tama ba yung line of thought ko. For all I know, inisip ko na tama ako pero yun pala hindi. Okay, so if you want to address your overthinking, overanalyzing, open up your trades to people na pwede yung pagkatiwalaan. And hopefully inside PR, yung mga accountability groups nyo, these are people that you can trust. Yung tipong kahit sabihin natin in one day, you ended up not following your plan. So, dapat nag-cut ka na sa all HC sa 4.30 pero ang ending napakat ka sa end of day. Di ba? If hindi mo yan kayang i-open up sa AG mo or sa partner mo, then it's not a healthy relationship. Para sa akin. So, syempre, part doon is yung ability mo to open up. To be honest about your trading performance. Kasi, the sooner that you open up or the sooner that you disclose your losses, disclose your mistakes, mas mabilis mo din siyang ma-address. Okay? And, ayun nga, no, like, highlight ko lang yung word na independent, di ba? Kasi, syempre, pag sa accounting pa yan, if a company decides to audit himself or itself, syempre, sasabihin niya na, ang gandang company. Syempre, ipapakita niya sa financial statements niya na sobrang profitable niya, right? Kasi siya lang yung nag-assess sa sarili niya eh. But if you have an independent auditor, doon makikita lahat ng mistakes, lahat ng misappropriation or siguro may corruption pa na nangyayari dyan that leads to losses, di ba? So, yun yung purpose nito. Itong number 3. And I would give you the assurance, guys, na if you just follow these key things, okay, ayan, nagtanong sa atin ng question na to kay Sir Julius, if you focus on really improving your process, on top of the ZFT system, yung personal process mo, and if you have or if you're really committed to condition your mind to uncertainty and let go of things you can't control, and at the same time, you have a very reliable and trustworthy accountability partner group, in no time yung overthinking na problem, it will go away. Okay? So, ayan. Yan yung nakikita kong approach or framework to address overthinking. Okay? So, I'm opening the floor now to questions. Kung meron kayong mga other like may hindi ba ako na-discuss na gusto niyang ma-discuss ko about this topic or concept, you can ask them now. Okay? So, sige. So, open mic na lang tayo, guys. Kung meron kayong gustong sagutin. Ayan there's a reason why Ask ZFT yung segment na to. It means the questions are coming from you guys. And I think I answered this. How would I know if I'm overthinking? Okay? So, malalaman mo yun if you're beginning to think about variables na hindi naman pasok sa process mo. Nag-brown out sa amin. Saglit. Ayan, bumalik lang ulit. Very common. So from time to time talaga dito sa amin, nag-brown out. Nagpa-fluctuate yung kuryente. Buti na lang may ano naman tayo. May UPS. Okay, wait Tatap ko lang ulit yung ating slideshow. Ayan. Okay. So, any questions guys that you would like to follow up or raise? You can ask them now. So, ayan, may sinabi si Sir Julius dito. Deep inside, parang alam ko na yung sagot, but hearing it from someone more experienced than me really embeds the learning to doctor. Ayan, so glad to help. Hopefully, nasagot ko yung mga other questions mo dito. I think I did not really answer it directly. I tried to explore the nuances outside your questions. Kasi I think yun talaga yung naging problem. Or yun yung nakita kong problem sa concern. Okay? So yan, how would I know if I'm overthinking? What's the difference? Low quality analysis. So ito, nasagutin natin to, right? So low quality if you don't have a plan or you don't have a specific process that you're following. And then number 3, would it be all right for you to start zero? Ito pwede naman natin tong gawin, but I don't want to do a charting session na. Kasi medyo sobrang dami na nating charting session eh. I really want to focus more on the non-technical side of this question. Okay? So, any questions, guys? Ano bang mga gustong... yung R's. Yes, ito. Parang ito pala yung hapyaw na tinanong mo, di ba? So, my question dito sa baba, like, how many hours should I dedicate for charting? Ito ba? So, I noticed that at the end of the day, when I have time, I look at charts without noticing how much time has already passed. Okay? So, I know the optimal hour would depend on the individual, especially if he's a beginner. Okay. So, bigyan natin ng context to. Kasi ako, personally, when I started, talagang babad ako sa chart. Siguro at least 4 hours a day. Or lahat ng free time ko, nung nag-work ako as a teacher, naka-dedicate lang sa charting. So, the reason behind that is, gusto ko lang kasi talaga ma-familiarize yung structure ng charts, yung mga patterns dyan. Kasi the more you look at it, mas nagiging mabilis yung pattern recognition mo. So, yun, 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours siguro. Kung may work ka, maybe at minimum 2 hours per night. But eventually, along the way, mas nahahasa yung process mo and you begin to identify talaga ano lang yung dapat na makita mo sa chart. Yung 2 hours na yan, magiging 30 minutes na lang or less than an hour. Tapos may AMI broker, like you don't have to screen manually, isa-isa. Okay? Screen mo na lang, tapos dun ka na lang mismo pipili ng ilalagay mo sa watchlist mo, di ba? So yeah, that's, for me, that's the progress or yung parang step by step na mangyayari sa charting hours mo. You would start 3 to 4 hours, 2 hours at minimum. Once you have a process, magiging less than an hour na lang. Oh yeah, chart is life muna. Siyempre, technical traders tayo eh. So, you really need to be familiar with charts. And part yan ng grind, guys. Okay? So, screen time, diba sabi nila 10,000 hours to be a master in something. So, how can you achieve the 10,000 hours if you're not that committed with the basic skill of charting as a technical trader? Okay, gets ba? So, ayan. Any other questions before we end? Sunday talaga, no? Parang chill lang yung mga tao, ganun. Parang they would prefer na, sige, makinig lang ako, ganun. May mapulot na akong learning, edi good. If wala, then okay lang rin. Pero siguro kasi simula na naman ng trading day tomorrow, right? So ayan, thank you guys. Siguro wala nang question, no? So thank you for attending this Ask ZFP podcast. Okay? So again, if you have ideas or questions, yes, Sir Julius, yeah, pwede. Bibigay ko sa'yo. So if you have ideas and questions, don't forget, guys, to go to this link. And ano na lang ulit, Sir Julius, ng link sa Ask ZFP channel natin. Okay? Na gusto niyong pag-usapan, anything na gusto niyo, so long as kaya ko siyang sagutin, I will answer it every Sunday, every week. Okay? So that's it. Thank you and good night.